lo akadli cologne akazofunda iCologne usazothi abe na 18 abe nangaki elibele fundiswa. If this relationship ayikho benye ngihafa school fees salena bafethu because ngisihafile na ngimnandi ngisihafele na phambili singanyathi the opportunities as pure our friends. So this is the only reason I come here, and this is the only reason the world should that kid go through there, ne? Upside down. If you have a kid, you are here to do this for them, so that they know my dad tried as a man, so that they know my mom tried, went to these courses as called an Orange Farm. Mr. Masizwa is not a final product. Orange Farm is Orange Farm. I mentioned Orange Farm. You say orange lana. Ukubile wazwafika la ekhona. And he looks back, you should see the love that he has for his children. That's what it's supposed to be. If you were not loved by your family, but you starting your own. And that's what this is supposed to prepare you for, ne? So ngiyabonga ku EmpowaWorks, Mr. Masiza. Jordan appreciates it very well. Usistumi nanga ngaba, usistumi ne? Woza ngapha. I know she's shy shame. Siyayethini. Tamshaleni izandla sister. Woza malana. Woza malana. Yeah, imala ungasizilana. Mr. Masiza is my boss. Gule function. This is my boss. It is important to adhere to authority, irregardless. I'm much older than her, been in the game for so long, nigga. But it's important to recognize authority and responsibility. So magati, babunkosi ngicela wehlise kancane, you must acquiesce, ne? Yeah, acquiesce. Ukuthi la speaker khuluma into eziningi nami sengijoinile. So thank you very, very much. Thank you. Thank you, Zaz. Thank you to our technical team. Thank you to EmpowaWorks for empowering my family as well. Thank you. Right now, though, I'm a guest etu kuzobayona pumayo for tea. Ngiyangicela for registration so that nizothola comfort tea and everything. Ngicela niye lapha abazokwazi ukunikeza. And for lunch bakhona abantu abazonikezwa. Izolo bese sikhompyutha naba. Liyaphela musidombolo lo muntu akana. Yaba so tholani ezonenza ukuthi nibe mnandi. So I'm a guest etu today. Can they leave? Sisters, can they leave with you first? Our guests, please, our panelists. Kone nye panelists asel. I second nye panelists asel. Are you okay then? Then Mr. Masiza, you can go for tea. Say, ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy tea. It's going to be for 10 minutes. Nyabonga ne, love you.
The Wholesale and Retail Sector Education and Training Authority, WNR-SETA, along with 26 other SETAs, was established by government in March 2000 to facilitate skills development across all economic sectors of the country. The WNR-SETA operates within the fourth biggest sector of the South African economy, wholesale and retail, which boasts wholesale and retail companies that contribute 19% of the country's active workforce. The sector comprises predominantly of small, medium, and micro enterprises, including informal traders. The WNR-SETA's vision is to be the leader in skills development in the country, and its mission is to develop a skilled, capable, competent, and professional workforce to transform the wholesale and retail sector. The WNR-SETA implements its mandate mainly through the development of qualifications, disbursement of grants, monitoring the provision of learning, and providing bursaries. Some of its programs include the following: learnerships and short programs, SMME, cooperative and rural development, management and executive development, TVET college support, career guidance, and bursaries from undergraduate to PhD level. In over 20 years of existence, the WNR-SETA has achieved some of the following key milestones. Over 8 billion rand invested in skills development through mandatory and discretionary grants, developed 399 senior executives from historically disadvantaged groups, through the prestigious International Leadership Development Program. Capacitated over 1,800 middle managers, team leaders, and supervisors from the Retail Management Development Program. Established the first retail chair in Africa at Cape Peninsula University of Technology, and subsequently 2 chairs at Durban University of Technology and University of Johannesburg. Provided bursary funding to over 15,000 students from TVET colleges, universities of technology, and universities, as well as W&R employees studying at public and private institutions. In partnership with the wholesale and retail companies, over 4,000 TVET college and university graduates were prepared for employment. 1,500 informal traders are trained annually through the ITEMED program. Empowered 400 young informal traders in partnership with the Tshwane Business Forum. Provided over 2,000 people with disabilities with opportunities to gain meaningful employment in partnership with government and relevant organizations. Invested 12.5 million to empower single mothers and vulnerable women to become financially stable by starting or improving their small businesses. You can interact with us on 012-622-9500. Email wrceta@wrceta.org.za or visit our website www.wrceta.org.za. W&R CETA, Skills Development for Economic Growth.
on day 3 of our Empowerment Youth Week. Ngicela ukubiza on the stage uMnumzana uLurato. He's the CEO of Decode Chief Doctor. Right, sir? Yes. Yes, ngiyacela actor. Right, sir? Yes, ngiyacela ke bhuti uLurato. And then my question is threefold. No, Lavi. Your question E1. Ingabi threefold, ne? Okay, and suppose what is relevant. It is Kaswai. May I please give you Mnumzana uLurato? Sir, over to you.
Dumelang Sanbonani, good afternoon, and thank you so much, Good Nimrod, the organizers of this event. This has been absolutely amazing. So our panel, or at least our session today, is going to focus on 3 things that are linked together. 1, technology, 2, jobs, and 3, the future of work, right? Some of you may be thinking, but how do you separate jobs and the future of work, right? Jobs, it is because, there are things, or there's an activity that you wake up to every morning and you go and do, right? And there's a designated time where you start and when you finish, or when you take breaks. But the future of work is going to really help us think about tomorrow. Think about some of the biggest disruptions. COVID-19 has been one of those disruptions, right? So we're going to look at technological disruptions, and we then have to help us navigate this. Ntate Mutseki Mabuya, who's the CEO of Hope FM. Let's give him a round of applause. And the rose amongst thorns, Nandi Madadasana, who's the MD of Everboon Foundation. Please join us. Also joining us is Ntate Charles Motaung Aremitsa Mochacho. He's the CEO and founder of KCA Radio. So, Buntate, thank you so much for joining us today. I want to start it this way. Can you put a roving mic? I need 2 people, preferably Osile Abuti. Tell us, share with us what you think, or what does future of work mean to you? Quickly, and then the mic is here. What does the future of work mean to you, according to you? Don't worry, there are no wrong or right answers. Future of work. I have a gentleman already. I need a lady. I need a lady to volunteer. Yes, you may.
Remote working.
Remote working.
Yes.
Wonderful. Khaitsedi?
For me, there'll always be work. Work will always be there. We just need to put ourselves out there to dedicate and be hard workers and be smart workers. Work is always there.
Thank you so much. Let's give them a round of applause. So perhaps and I'll start with you. Oh yes. I apologize. I missed a very important speaker. Niko Nkuna, the GM of Intelligent Transport Systems. Niko, accept my apology because you know there's something called line of sight,
No
right?
problem.
So all the speakers were in my line of sight, and unfortunately the podium in Cyril. So please accept my apology.
No problem.
So this is how I wish for us to start this conversation. The 2 participants have shared with us what their view of work is, right? Or a future of work. Nandi, and I will start with you. 1, introduce, and 1 minute. I'm a very strict timekeeper, right? 1 minute, tell us what you do, and then share with us what the future of work is according to you.
Okay, I'm Nandi Madadasana. What I do, or what we do as Everboom Foundation, we are in the academic space, both basic education and higher education. So we're working with this disruptive world with the 4IR. So our focus is mainly on that. And currently we're also suffering a double distraction because of the COVID-19. So yeah, that's basically what we do. And from our perspective, what the future of work is, it's actually very exciting when we actually have a look at it. It's almost like Mother Nature has put a reset button, you know, because we've had different revolutions before. But what the fourth industrial revolution has actually brought about is that it has taken us by storm. So the change is not linear, it's very exponential. And it is basically changing how we're going to be working moving forward and how we have to learn to work with the machines. And it shows how humans have actually advanced moving this far. So basically, things are going to look so totally different. But you know, we've seen quite a lot of jobs going down, but there's a lot more jobs that are coming up, and that's what is exciting.
Thank you so much, Nandi. Yeah. Before I proceed, I realized that you know so I missed one more speaker. Dr. Situmo Mohapi, he's the Chief Go-to-Market Officer at Dimension Data. A round of applause for him. Again, I'm going to blame this podium because Leana Nasiru like a podium, right? So please accept my apology in that. So at least Nandi helps us to think about, so one, she's in the education space, which is one of the biggest things. And because today, really our audience are graduates, right? But you are more in the space of media. What does the future of work look, not necessarily as far as media is concerned, from, you know, an ability to facilitate, you know, communication between yourselves as, you know, the platform and the hosts to the audiences. But what does it mean as far as you being able to, or at least you being carriers of content, and how you catalyze the conversations around the future of work?
Well, thank you very much. I think the future of work is digital and remote. And for me, those are two key words. Media across, be it, I would say print, of course 5% of print because it's still remaining. But media plays a critical role in ensuring that the society generally understand that our platform is to disseminate and help society understand where generally the future should be directing to. And I don't think the future it's coming. I think the future is now. As Nandi had said, that COVID has just, we've just been pressed reset globally. So the future is now. We are seated here. I'm sure we're supposed to be having over 2,000 young people in this hall. If it was not of COVID. So the future is now. We've got young people who are joining us remotely today as well. So for me, the future is digital and remote, and media plays a critical role in ensuring that it helps those who do not access the platforms to get information and opportunities. Radio in particular remains the most trusted platform or medium to ensure that the society receives the information that could only be disseminated digitally.
Sure. Thank you so much. So, Muchacho, let's then connect what Motsek is raising, right? So you run a platform that is predominantly, hosted by people who are in the creative space, and you facilitate content that is creative related, right? And we know that in South Africa, there's now the buzzword is Township Economy. And if you look at the Township Economy, particularly as far as young people and youth are concerned, some of those areas where there's almost no barrier to access is creative, right? You are a DJ, you can literally just start this thing by yourself, or you want to start a PR agency. you really don't need to buy any machinery to start. How do you, from a future of work perspective, does your content and your platform, one, talk to creatives to think differently about the future of work, but two, facilitate this content such that there's almost a shift in how we think about work and in the future?
Thank you very much. I think what I need to also explain is that KCA Radio, it's a brainchild of an academy. It's Karabo Creatives Academy. It's an institution that offers qualifications. So how we came about with the radio station was that normally you would have people studying a certain course and then going out to do practicals, come back, qualify, graduate, and then there's no jobs. So I then said, you know what, instead of us going a long way, let's have the studio here. Let's have this radio, a proper radio station here. Instead of graduates wanting to graduate and then a year later go job hunting. What we do, we give you a direct access to the media space or to the radio space that you want to go into. KCA Radio runs a 12-hour programming schedule with normal shows. And what we do is that all students who participate in that, we create a content that is work-based, depending on what is it that they want to do. Because on radio, there's different jobs. Radio is not only about speaking on the mic. There's production, there's working behind the scenes, there's content creation, there's content packaging and stuff. So when we teach that, we give you a direct experience. Because back then, when we used to study, it was like, I must finish my theory first and then go do a practical somewhere. So what we do, taking advantage of the 4IR again, we then said, you study, you work at the same time. So that's what we do.
Okay. Thank you so much. So, and from both Mutseki and Muchacho's input, right? There's an intersection of one, as graduates in the room, even those who are watching virtually, the importance of the qualification, but then the learning experience. And the previous panel was talking about, a number of platforms that are available for all of us, including the YES program and the likes, right? But I think what you are, and to what you raised, Mutseki, around the future of work, one, is digital, two, the ability to do things remotely. And what I'm hearing you, Muchacho, is then about how do you create and facilitate a platform that enables people to be able to, one, interact with content wherever they are, not necessarily only as consumers of content, but also as practitioners, right? So I hope if you are in the room and you are in the creative space, you are going to, when they live out of here, so that we can see how we help facilitate. And now I'd like to go to Dr. Mohapi. Dr. Mohapi, and I don't know if you were able to catch the conversation or the talk by Prof. Chilidzi Mahwala this morning. One of the things that he does in his talk, he used an anecdote about his grandmother who was into pottery, right? And the most important thing about that anecdote was that he was trying to transport us to think about how we solve problems, right? To say, if you think about how the process, one, she would make a pot, but she would not use the pot immediately because she understood that the pot needed to sit, cool off, and also because she understands, because it's a dome shape or it's a round shape, it is hollow, the thickness needed to be a certain size and all of that, right? And he was just translating to us that his grandmother did not have the technical knowledge from textbooks, yet she had invaluable experience of actually doing engineering while she was not an engineer, right? And I wish for you to talk to us a little bit about, a lot of us think that the work of the future is in the future. A lot of us think that technology is apps because we interact with technology that way. A lot of us think that technology is hardware, right? I then want you to talk to us about the intersection between how technology enables facilitating the knowledge that we have gained and making sure that we are then, if I'm sitting here and I'm a graduate and I'm worried about, I have a qualification, but I don't know how to enable or to at least move to the next step if I'm not employed. How do we transition, or how do we help young people to transition based on some of these?
Can you hear me?
Dr. Mohabi's mic. Thank you.
Okay. Is it on? Maybe not. Hello? Okay.
Yes.
Sounds like it's on.
Yes.
Thanks for that very nice question. In that analogy of how we've been moving throughout the industrial revolutions, I like to make an analogy of just before the second industrial revolution, where the owner of a petrol station, equivalent to a petrol station now, was actually somebody who used to sit at certain corners of towns or villages and provided hay to horses. Right? That was the job of feeding the horses, fueling them, for them to be able to carry people and goods across the towns and villages and between them. And there was a certain amount of logistics, or what you now call maybe transport technologies, operations research, that was employed to be able to have the right amount of hay at the right place and beat the market. Right? So if you did not know where the horses were moving, you would not have the opportunity to feed them. Right now, if I am doing operations research, maybe I work for Engine, and we are designing where our petrol stations are going to be, we have to understand things. We have to understand movements of cars, we have to understand movements of people, movements of goods, and so on and so forth. And to do that, you apply math, right? A lot of mathematics. But that person, about maybe 150 years ago, was similarly applying mathematics to solve the same problem, right? The problem has not changed. It is how to support a transport and logistics kind of system. So, so I completely agree with Prof, by the way, he's a friend of mine, and I just missed him, so apologies about that. When I study, I'm an engineer myself as well. When I was studying engineering, I remember my second class, my second year electronics. The very first statement that the lecturer said was, I'm not here to teach you electronics per se. I'm here to help you to understand, to visualize problems, understand problems in society, and to solve problems. And that was probably the most profound teaching I ever got out of my engineering studies. And so the beauty about, just to transition to the answer there, the beauty about the fourth industrial revolution, probably Prof mentioned that, is that it combines three things that were probably not there and supported by the third industrial revolution. Third industrial revolution is about using computers to interact with the world, interact between ourselves. What the fourth industrial revolution does is allows the systems, the technology, to interact with the physical environment and then interact with the, let's say, the people environment immersively, right? So that you can, in fact, interact with the environment, the transport environment around the mall while you are still sitting here. And so coming back to the question here, so the key trick about exploiting the fourth industrial revolution is to understand the environment around you. Visualize, understand the problems, be perceptive. See that in fact there is a bit of a transport problem around the mall at that, I think it's a T-junction, right? Visualize that probably the transport system is probably not as efficient as it could be. Visualize that in fact the environment is probably getting hit because of the short distances that those taxis take, right? And visualize that in fact I can solve that thing by solving that problem for myself, solving it for my grandmother, solving it for my relatives. I can actually solve it for society, right? And actually I can make money out of it, and lots and lots and lots of money. So the person who did TikTok was not, did not have any clue
did not have a sense, any clue about my child who uses TikTok all the time. Had no clue. In fact, they were doing TikTok to deal with an entertainment problem for young kids in China. It just turns out that children are all the same around the world, and they're making billions and billions and billions of dollars. My advice to you is don't look far for solutions. Understand that by being a member of society, you are already an engineer because you solve problems each and every day. All that you have to do is we can give you the tools to be able to translate your ideas into something that is usable. That's the least important part. The most important part is having the imagination. First of all, being perceptive, being imaginative, and caring about your environment and society. When you do that, you're going to have ideas. They're not going to come out of the book. In fact, just the last point is that that professor in that school, every exam that I attended was an open book exam. Right? Open book. Because the questions had nothing to do with the content. They had to do with society. And the answers you could not find in the book. The answers is how you think society should advance through changes, with technology and so on and so forth. So absolutely, absolutely right. The most important thing is understand your society, solve problems for society. For example, just one last thing. We as the continent, Africa, we are the youngest continent in the world, right? If you close your eyes and there are 10 people around you there, chances are most of them are below 19 years old or younger, right? Youth unemployment is 64% in South Africa right now. We are a young population, unemployed. Yet we have the most serious problems around the world. Problems around food security, problems around wars, problems around medical access to public medical help, right? Japan, kids in Japan are not going to solve that problem for us. In fact, Japan is very, very old. Average age is about 40 years old. It's going to be yourselves who are in the system, who understand those problems more than anybody else, and who have their own interest in solving those problems because you are solving those problems for yourselves and your families and your communities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mahapi. I suspect that this round of applause means that you took a lot out of what Dr. Mahapi shared, right? And Nico, while you think about this question, so I want you to share with us a little bit around some of the biggest tech disruptions. You could look at one or two that the audience would relate to, but also most importantly, how they ought to be thinking about problem solving. And I'm really connecting what Dr. Mahapi was raising, right? And maybe before you answer that, while you're thinking about the answer, there are two case studies that I want you to think of. So COVID hits, there are some young kids, teenagers in the township of Langa in Cape Town. They are realizing that there are a number of elderly people who cannot access medication. These young people, to Dr. Mahapi's point around, 1, know your environment, 2, be perceptive, 3, visualize how you are going to solve that problem, right? These young people organized bicycles, some of them already had bicycles, and they decided to start collecting medication on behalf of the the elderly from the clinics, right? Because a lot of them are on chronic medication, right? Fast forward 2 weeks later, their business scales crazy because now people are realizing that there's not enough transport, public transport. But even when there's enough transport, because of the regulations, only so many people can be in a taxi. It then takes them longer to commute from either the shopping mall to home. They then ask these young people to start doing the delivery service for groceries and all of that. So I'm saying, you see how young people who did not necessarily look at technology as a barrier, how they communicated, they used WhatsApp. So if you wanted to request, you send a WhatsApp to a number, you send them the proof that they can collect the script on your behalf at the nearest clinic, you go, there's proof, you collect, and then you deliver. They were profiled in a number of, I'll share the information with you, they were profiled in a number of traditional media, the Sowetan, and an NGO that I work for called Future Kings. we actually partnered with them and helped them raise 21,000 rands worth of PPE because we were realizing that they were being exposed to a lot of people, therefore they needed to be protected adequately. And so I was just linking, what Dr. Mohapi was saying. Nico, I don't know if you've thought enough about the question, or do you want me to repeat it, or you're good?
All right, no problem. If there's any, if I forget something, then I'll just ask you. So first of all, thank you everyone for being here, and thank you for this. Speak up.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity, and thanks for those questions. So just a little bit of background about myself. I work for the Gautrain, and I'm responsible for what they call intelligent transport systems. And what that is all the technology in the buses, the trains, as well as the Gautrain stations. So all the technology that you see on the Gautrain, for those that have been on the Gautrain, I'm responsible for that. I studied computer science and mathematics. Yeah, that's just a little bit about myself. So in terms of the, disruptions and problem solving, I just want to start by this quote from Einstein, where he said that you cannot solve a problem with the same thinking that created that problem. So if you look at the different disruptions that have happened, they are actually not necessarily competition, they are substitutes. So the difference between that is that a competition is someone who does exactly what you do, and they probably do it better. But a substitution is when somebody does or solves the same problem that you're solving, but they are solving it in a different way. So in terms of the disruptions that I can think of that everyone can relate to is obviously the two culprits, which is Uber and Airbnb. So let me start with Airbnb. Airbnb, the hotels or the people in the hospitality industry and so on, they expected competition from other hotels. They expected competition from other hospitality providers. However, competition came from something different. It came from crowdsourcing. It came from people utilizing their own homes, their own properties to host people. And technology enabled that. The fourth industrial revolution enabled that. The same as Uber. Uber is solving the same problem that the taxis are solving, the buses are solving, the trains are solving. That is the same problem, but they're just doing it in a different way. And technology has enabled them to solve it that way. So the point I'm trying to make is that you need to be, okay, let me put it like this. Every job or anything or any task that can be automated, it will be automated sooner or later. If it hasn't been automated right now, it will be automated. So what you need to start thinking about, problem solving. And when you think of problem solving, you have to go outside of the box. You don't necessarily have to think about competition, becoming a competition. Yes, you can become a competition and make sure that you provide a better service, better value. It can be in terms of the product that you provide, or it can be in terms of the service that you provide to people, because you can have that, whereby someone provides the very same thing. One person is selling tomatoes here, the other person sells tomatoes here, but the difference is the smile that the person gives, the smile that the person gives to their customers and the interactions that they have. You can do that, but at the same time, you can actually replace or come up with a substitute. Just to close my point, one of the professors at Singularity University made this example about spices. He made an example about the fact that people wanted spices. There was a lot of shipping routes that were created between the different continents were really to transport spices. Why did people want spices so much? One, it was for the taste, but most importantly, it was for the preservation of food, making sure that food can be preserved and it can last longer. The replacement of those spices was the refrigerator. Not a better spice, not anything else, but the fridge is the one that replaced some of those spices. So the point I'm trying to make is that you need to become problem solvers, and you need to think outside the box when it comes to problem solving. Don't just think competition, think substitution, think the problem. I think I'll leave it there for now.
So this is what is fascinating about what Nyeko is raising, right? So it's from the Gautrain, right? And you think that the Gautrain, as a gigantic company they are likely not to allow any kind of substitute. The second case study that I want to share, remember I spoke about the young boys from Kwalanga in Cape Town. There's a young chap called Lita Swezwapi. Lita is a self-taught programmer. He graduated at Pentec many moons ago. I think he was in the journalism field. But then he realized that he wanted to pivot, right? But of course, with a number of other interesting things. Interestingly, as a self-taught developer, Lita and his liking for everything geography, he then developed an app called Gau Rider, right? Which is not a competitor of Gautrain, because if you look at both the Gautrain app and what Gau Rider offers, they are almost the same, right? He has information about when buses are coming, the schedules and all of that. Gautrain has the same, but he offers a different user experience. You see, so what he did was that in what he learned from both combining graphic design and his coding skill, he realized that people needed a lot more, to interact differently with this app. For the longest time, Gau Rider was the top most downloaded app, and it's a paid app, by the way. It's not a free app like a lot of these apps. So people were willing to even pay money for it. So the point really is that when you have a solution, or at least when the way you think about solving problems, do not be intimidated by big companies and say, yeah, but how do I compete against a Gautrain? It is not about a matter of competition. It's a matter of collaboration. And thank you, Nyeko, for, I think the key word that we must live with from Nyeko's presentation is substitute. Be that substitute. Nandi, you are in the education space, right? Is it good enough to have or to be a graduate? Because I think one of the things, while Dr. Mahadi was raising the issue of the highest levels of unemployment, we also know that amongst those who are unemployed are graduates. Yeah. You, one, as somebody who is in the space, who has developed a technology solution that is in the education space, is it good enough just to have or to be a graduate?
It's a bit of a tricky one. Because it also depends on what program you're graduating in. A good example is that, for example, I think it's about 2 weeks ago, Minister Nzimande was actually making a point that we've got quite a lot of graduates or even students that are studying courses that are not necessarily, are in demand once they're outside the system. So one thing that needs to be understood is why it is that the education institutions are there for. For example, they're there to generate knowledge. But after they've generated the knowledge, after you've consumed the information, they are not the ones that are going to hire you. Corporate is going to hire you. So therefore, corporate gets to dictate what the curriculum should be like or what the curriculum should be. Because otherwise you end up, just having a certificate for the sake of having a certificate that you can never use outside of that. But what is very important is that once you have graduated, the thinking should be that what were you being taught? It was not necessarily that you were being taught marketing or public relations, or you were being taught critical skills, thinking skills. So you were being taught group work. You were being taught, it's a matter of how you view a problem and how you need to solve the problem. That's what you were being taught indirectly, but it's a matter of how it was being applied. So being a graduate alone, having a certificate is not enough in my view. What is important is what it is that you actually can do, because the world is moving towards that now. That it's not about what you're qualified to do, but it's what can you actually do that solves a problem.
Thank you so much, Nandi. She deserves a round of applause. Motseki, what is missing in the content that we are putting out there? Because if on a regular basis we are seeing graduates standing by the robot saying, I'm a geology graduate, I need an opportunity. And yet we're listening to Dr. Mohapi, we're listening to Nico. You know, these are people who, ordinarily help us, almost think differently about these things, including yourselves as well, as the panelists here. What is missing? Is there a gap in how we communicate the importance of those who left an institution of higher learning with a qualification, with minimal prospects of work, but been thinking about, or at least obsessing about, problem solving rather than being available to be employed?
Sure. What is missing, I think it's people who understand the direction that the world is moving to. And out of respect, we have majority of key senior positions that are still occupied by people that are ready to go to pension. And there's majority of us as young people. Well, I'll regard myself as a young person. I've just left the age group of 35. Of course, if I was is it Zambia, I think, where at least they're still kept within 40. So I'm still a young person. So if you look at the 64% of unemployment rate in South Africa, it's young people there. And people occupying key positions both in government and corporate, it's people that are ready to go to pension. So the policy makers need to help us to solve these problems. And guess what? Unfortunately, only this year and early this week, where I want to make reference to what one of the policymakers said, who politically sits as the chair of the ANC, Untitled Chapter, says, government alone is not going to solve the problem of unemployment. We're only been told that 27 years later. And we are seated here, some of us qualified, and being told that government will help us to get employment. So, therefore, what does that mean to those who are in the media space and the influencers as well through social media? It's for us to take it upon ourselves as South Africans, those who believe strongly that we can change the world outside the policymakers, and say, we will take it to the streets of social media and find those who have solutions. And we need to encourage young people and South Africans to start collaborating as opposed to looking for employment. Most of the graduates that are sitting here and everywhere else, the end goal is for one to graduate and get employed. And other people, entrepreneurs, we say, there's no need for employment. We need to create our own companies. Let us be entrepreneurs. And the question is, in this room alone, we cannot all be entrepreneurs. Yeah. But I say, we actually can. How? We can all be entrepreneurs by virtue of collaborating. Most of us, we want to be entrepreneurs because we want to employ people, we want to be self-employed. But we also, when we want to be employers, we miss the point of collaboration. And that is where I think the fourth industrial is taking us to as a people, to say, well, I'm not employed, I'm not an employer, but at least I've got access to 12 megabytes of data. What do I do with it? I've got options. I can go on social media and just take a selfie and post that on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever. Or I can take that data and WhatsApp a friend and say, let's meet up at Kona Mandela and Sisulu. Let's see what we can do about the young ones who's supposed to be taken care of when the parents are going to work, because we are at home, we are graduates and unemployed. I'm sure with the little data we have, we can be able to create a WhatsApp group that says, in our blog, please drop your baby at 8 o'clock. We will take care of them. Because the reality is we cannot afford some of the interest and taste we want as young people who are also graduates and qualified on certain positions. But again, as a last point, we need to get to a point where as individuals, we do not expect anyone to remind us that something is missing in the world. We've got to remind ourselves that so much is missing, and I am the answer for what is missing in the globe.
Thank you so much. A round of applause. That's an interesting input. So if you have not watched Sarafina, please watch Sarafina, right? So Lelete Kumalo stands in front of the mirror, right? And she's faced with, a whole lot of things. But one of the most important things that she does is that she realizes that she needs to remind herself. And if there's anything that, we can take away from Motseke's input today, is to constantly remind ourselves that we are actually the ones we have been waiting for. But perhaps you need something that is, that is an object that may help you remember that. There was a time when she needed Nelson Mandela to remind her that, Nkululeko may not necessarily be here, but the thought of the future, should he be released and should all the political prisoners be released, kept her going. So please keep on doing that. Dr. Mapi, Nico talks to us about the biggest disruptions, the Uber and the Airbnbs of this world, right? But we know that although these are ideas that are problem solving in particular, there's an enabling ecosystem. So all of us, we may have heard of the concept Silicon Valley, right? So Silicon Valley, these are the guys where, there are venture capitalists, angel investors who are waiting for somebody with the next biggest tech idea, and then they are saying, we like you, we'll put money behind you. That becomes a very big enabler, right? When you're in Orange Farm, that is missing, right? So here are young people who may be solution-oriented, who may be very, very smart, right? But that is missing. How do we solve that problem so that we get to the point where not all of us may be entrepreneurs, but there's a system, or at least an ecosystem where collaboration thrives because there are, building blocks in place?
No, very, very, very good question, and thank you. In the world of business, that a big part of that ecosystem is capital, access to capital, right? And really, without it, ideas remain ideas. That's the reality of the world. And the poorer, if I may, the less advantaged the community, the less likely will those ideas become reality. That's kind of the story right now of the continent. However, and let me put it another way. To even to clarify that issue even further. Having worked around the entrepreneurs in my kind of different work experiences, I know how many of a class out of 100 coming from, that is, let's say, mixed. Probably, if I take in terms of, the history where we come from, how we look like, the advantages that we got in society and so on and so forth, sometimes even going beyond race, but largely influenced by race because of our history, right? There's a large chunk of those graduates that actually don't go and become employed. The reason being that it is not maybe the father who has money, access to money, but the friend of the father or the uncle of the friend of the father who has the money to fund the idea of this 18-year-old or 20-year-old. It happens. And a big chunk of the economies of the US, Japan, in Europe are driven by funding capital being provided by third parties. Now, I think we have realized that in a way, and the reason I'm saying that is there's a bank, for example, that is called Standard Bank, and this is in the public domain. And be careful, just hear it very, very, very loud, clearly here. Standard Bank, if you go and take that money, the 50 megabytes, don't post it on Instagram, don't use it on Instagram, go and Google Standard Bank, download their annual results, and look at what their CEO said about what his vision is for the bank. He says, this bank, I want it to be a platform company, right? A platform company means that the bank knows exactly who is interacting with it, what their needs are, and you can interact with it, and it can create an ecosystem of partners. And I'll give you an example in agriculture, very, very simple one. An ecosystem of people who can help you bring your ideas to life. At the end of the day, a bank does nothing else. A bank makes money out of giving you a loan, right? But you can't get a loan because your credit record is you don't have a credit record, you're a young person, right? So then you get into this vicious cycle of where do I get access to capital when I have not been part of the system. So the example of what the bank is doing to create a platform company is, and when they do credit, when they give you credit, they look at your credit risk. And if you are coming from a disadvantaged family, you get it, it's a double whammy. Either your interest rates are going to be high because they say you're high credit risk, or they're going to deny you access to credit. So what they do is create an ecosystem of parties. So imagine if you wanted to go in agriculture and you don't know anything about agriculture. You can create an ecosystem where the bank says, I want to reduce the risk that I face by giving you money to go into farming. But for me to do that, I'm going to be an active member of that ecosystem. Around you, I will put in the scientists who will advise you. I'll put the supply chain in terms of the inputs. I'll put the supply chain in terms of the retail side, right? And by doing so, I actually going to make sure that my money is more protected when I give it to you, right? Standard Bank is doing that right now. Imagine how much Standard Bank can revolutionize our world if they start becoming participants and active drivers of such ecosystems. Now, here's an interesting thing about what Standard Bank did about 4 years ago as part of their strategy. They had banks in Europe, in China, everywhere in South America. They sold all of those assets. And then they became an African bank. They said, we are going to be the driver of, we belong to Africa. Africa is our home, and we are going to drive the African economy. And when they did that, they immersed themselves into the problem statements faced by entrepreneurs and the economy and societies in Africa. And that's how they came up to these ideas that they have. You could not have a bank coming out of New York, coming into this continent, coming to this country, and all of a sudden thinking about platform ecosystem builder, right? Because they don't understand our world, right? So that is changing, and it's a very, very important thing. And for me, if you have ideas right now, the very first, because I haven't had any other bank say, are coming up with such ideas. I would say the very first place to start knocking on those doors is Standard Bank, and make them accountable to the strategy that they've put out there in the public domain, saying that they are going to be a platform company that drives ecosystems supporting entrepreneurs.
Thank you. Ndade Masiza, I don't see you in the room, but I know that the team that works with you will help us with this message. So, Dr. Mohabi, without promoting the blue bag.
Yeah, I didn't promote it.
Right? He's encouraging us to, one, pay attention to those that are enablers for these ideas that we may have, how we want to solve problems. So perhaps what we then need to do is to really go into this facility. And sometimes when you're hitting a brick wall or you feel like you are not getting enough, please go to EmpowaYouth, speak to Ndade Masiza and say, how can you help me? We are now about to take questions. Ndade Mchacho, you are going to be the next one to contribute after this round of questions. If there are any burning questions, and Ndade Nkosi has given us the guide in terms of how we do the questions, one question at a time, direct to the point, and if possible, if you know who you directing your question to, you may also indicate. Are there any hands in the room of people who want to ask questions? While you raise your hand, please note them. Muchacho, perception and reality are big things, right? So both Mutsegi and Dr. Mohabi talk about the importance of perception, right? And you can't take away from the fact that all of us want to, or at least we aspire to look better, right? But how do we, start creating a narrative that it is okay to take things slow? You have a platform that is a media platform, but mostly that is, housing a lot of creatives. How do we start changing the narrative using a powerful platform such as the one you have? If you can, please don't be too long with your answer. Ke kopa mic wa Muchacho.
Yeah. Okay, just to answer quickly, one thing that I need to make young people or graduates aware of is that there is a whole lot of solutions. But the problem is that the perception, as you have said, is that, especially in the radio space, people used to think that for you to become a radio presenter, you need to work for the SABC, you need to work for commercial radio and stuff. But gone are those days. You can be a radio presenter in your own space. I mean, people have started podcasting many years ago, and a lot of people, they felt like, okay, podcast does not come anywhere closer to radio. But if you look around right now, a lot of big names, they have lost their jobs in big radio stations. And some of them, they have gone private to start these podcasts and all of that. This is a sign that with the 4IR, the radio space, it's becoming a different space from what it was when we were told about. Because what we do at KCA is that we allow you as a creative to create your own content, but we give you space that you can broadcast your content. For an example, we are not a studio-based radio station. You can do the radio show from your house. As a young person, if you're creative enough, you have content that you want to share with the world, you can just hit us up and say, guys, I want to broadcast this thing, I have this content, we come and set you up, we do it there. It's a solution for a lot of things. Because back then, young people used to want to go and do auditions. And you'll find them queuing in a long queue for the whole day, but for one job that they're going to hire just one presenter. The 4IR says, create your own content. Once you've created your own content, as Mutseki has said, that small data you have, use it profitably so that you can share your content with the world. And content these days is consumable. People want to buy into content. We have TikTok superstars these days. People that are not employed by any media house, they take their own videos in their homes, and then they upload, and then they get paid. I mean, YouTube pays people for content. So we need to stop dreaming about working for a bigger radio station. You can be a radio station yourself. You can become a content creator yourself. But the problem is access. Because a lot of people have been complaining about data in South Africa. Data is expensive and all of that. But if your content is consumable enough, you can get yourself a sponsor who would then say, okay, it's fine. I'll give you so much data for you to be able to upload this and as a sponsorship. So we need to stop thinking around wanting to seek employment, but let us be creative ourselves.
Sure.
Thank
you so much. The questions?
Thank you very much. My name is Bafana Jodo. I have one question for Mr. Mabuya and Mr. Mtaung. Now that we are in the space of 4IR, do you think that the future of radio is safe? Bear in mind that 50 years from now, the radio station won't be giving us the same content that they are giving us right now. So do you think 50 years from now, in terms of employment-wise and the content that we get from radio, is it safe, or is there going to be changes in that? Because I think most of those young people out there who are still willing to be presenters of radio stations. So do you think the radio platform is safe? Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll take two more questions. I'm seeing another hand that side. I wish for more ladies to ask questions. Ever since I've been here and paying attention over the week, a lot of gents ask questions.
Okay. Dumelang hape, Jerry Khatebe here. Mine is more of a suggestion insofar as funding is concerned. We have so many brilliant minds and businesses in our space as we speak. How about whenever someone pitches an idea or sells a product, we hold them accountable to take a certain portion. That portion from whatever the money that we use to buy the product, that portion be invested into funding or financing or solving all these other problems, and also hold these radio stations accountable in providing airplay for such people who are contributing effectively into these problems.
Brilliant suggestion. Thank you, Jerry. There's a question that side with the lady in the cap.
Dumelang, ka lebitso ke Eva wa Hantiso, ke lebohela information ena hleng la go thusa. My question is very simple. I've got a very small company, it's a media company that I'm planning to grow. So what I have right now is about 16 students that I have requested from the government because they're getting paid stipends. And the reason I did that is because I can't afford salaries. So what I'm planning to do with the students is to create projects that are more sustainable so that after 12 months, they don't really have to go back, but I'm coming up with smaller projects, you know, in terms of assisting even SMMEs, communicationing. But now what I'm looking for is an opportunity, because kitlile mo ke batla opportunity. And I'm happy. O ka kgona ho nthusa hore bana ba ba ke nang le bona o ba thuse ka digital skills programs tse le hore mohlomong o ka re connecta hore ba kgone ho think out of the box in terms of what we're doing. And then in Tatemona, because I'm in the media space and I don't have big offices, I'm looking for other media companies that can give them more experience for a certain time, so that when they come back to me, beko lebo ha kere ha ba tswelle pele ba etse mosebetsi. So le ka kgona ho thusa. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dumi, I think because we are not going to have another round of questions, let's take the last question at the back, and then we are going to be doing our closing as we answer the questions.
Good day, everyone. I'm a content creator, special like in filmmaking. So my question is going like to Mr. Mchachu, special like regarding creative space, special like Tina, like we are doing like online content, whereby like we create like a web series, a talk show, which like are operating online. So my question is like, how can we survive like online? Especially like a lot of people, there are big fishes in the industry who can take your idea. Especially like if like you don't have a right for it, like I have to go to like register go. But then we found out people like in the big houses, like production house, they take like your content and they make it big and they make money out of it. So we're not like, especially you don't have a lot of information, what's like when in the big space. And again, I have a question regarding what's like, how can we support like local creatives, especially like in terms of audience development, whereby like we want to host like a screening around the community to call like the local content. Thank you.
Thank you.
Morana Rea Leboha and everyone who asked the question, thank you so much for your inputs. So this will be our closing round. Muchacho respond to the two questions that were, or three questions that were directed to you. Mar ube muripa.
Right. Let me start with the gentleman. In terms of assisting creatives to obviously get exposure and stuff, as a radio, we offer that value. That's our job. You need to contact us so that we can sit down and have a discussion as around how we can assist you. And then in terms of being afraid of your job being, or your project or idea being taken by the big guns, the advice is, I know people are struggling to patent their ideas, because when you say patent, it sounds like it's a very expensive word. I was taught a very simple thing to patent an idea. Very simple. Your idea, you put it on paper as a project or a business plan. You put it in an envelope, you post it to your address, and then you take that envelope, you save it. The envelope must have your post stamp and the date. So whoever that comes with an idea years later, you have an idea on paper. Don't open the envelope, by the way. So you keep the envelope safe. If that's a cheaper way. Or else you can just go and get information from the CIPRO company regulators. They can assist you as to how you can safeguard your idea. And then secondly, in terms of the future of radio being safe, I think we need to separate the two. There's analog radio, which is one you use to consume via your FM receiver. Lately, we have discovered a new medium, which is online radio. So the future of analog radio is, I wouldn't say it's safe, because a lot of radio stations now are even cutting content. They're reducing hours. Radio used to be 24 hours. Now, some radio stations, they don't run live content after certain hours. So the analog approach of radio, I would say it's not safe with the 4IR. But in terms of the digital radio is not a medium that you can consume for 24 hours. You listen to that radio for a specific content. So to answer that question, yes, it is safe, because content creation right now, it's not what it used to be back then. Back then, you used to have radio with the radio dramas, and then you would listen to Lifito Lamba Chobolo at night, and then all of that. Radio has changed. There's no longer such thing. Content of radio these days, it's direct to the now life. So I would advise people who want to get into the radio space, be a creative before you want to become an employee at a certain radio station. Be a creative. Create your own content. What we do at KCA Radio, we form partnerships. We don't hire presenters. We don't hire. Don't come to us and say, oh, but Span is our radio presenter. Because the first question we're going to ask you, what are you doing?
Muchacho, the next panel.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's give a round of applause to Dr. Muchacho Mutau. So one of the most wonderful things that has happened throughout this panel and the previous panels that I've been paying attention to, all of them are open to being contacted. So please make sure that, if you didn't have an opportunity to ask the question, but you have a burning question, make sure that you follow them, and hopefully we'll share their social media handles, and you can stalk them on Twitter, on Facebook, and everywhere else. Please close it in 2 minutes in responding to the question that was asked.
Sure.
Your final thought and the response.
I hope my final thought will respond to that. You're not going to sit here as a young person who's also a graduate worried about somebody who's going to steal your idea. For you to learn, you've got to fail. Let them steal your idea so that you can see how they execute it. And if that's how you wanted it to be executed, you can always bounce back and come back again. So allow people to steal your ideas, because that will teach you how to come back and how to be better than before. But I think the future of radio is safe. I'm speaking as an analog person coming from online. Radio is safe in South African context for as long as data is expensive. And radio's future is safe for as long as those who are running and leading traditional radio are leaders who think outside the box. Because you need that FM platform, at least for the next 10 years, I can put my head on the block, to help fund the ideas, as one gentleman was asking. And I would put a commitment from Hope FM for Orange Farm. We'll engage with Tatema Caesar, as well as other partners, to say, as Hope FM, at least we will not waste time. We will launch an hour or 2 hour radio show that will help young people from the Val, Orange Farm, to drop their ideas, and let's push as radio through listeners to fund some sort of a seed capital, a crowdfunding as a radio station, so that young people can be funded. Most of the time, young people want to be funded at the most 100,000. They are not. Others are looking for just 5,000 rand to kickstart. So I'm putting my head on the block. We will engage with Tatema Caesar as he walks in. That how do we help these young people for their ideas to be funded? Government is there, corporate is there, platform is there, and that's why we are here.
Beautiful commitment. Nandi, Motegi has just decided to put pressure on you. It means, you must leave here with a commitment. So leave us with your final thought, because the question here, and I like where Motegi went around, stop being fearful, right? And you are that. You are actually the epitome of stop being fearful, right? What is your final way to, this wonderful crowd here thinking about, I'm worried, I'm scared. How do they overcome that?
Okay. Firstly, it's difficult to tell a person who's scared to not to be scared. It's okay to be scared, but don't stay there. Don't live there. So, the one parting thought I can live is that this has been disrupted. Jobs have been lost, but new jobs, new careers have emerged. So that 50 megs that you're talking about, it's a matter of looking at even sites such as what the World Economic Forum is saying about the new jobs that have emerged. Number two, it didn't just happen somewhere in the world, but also South African jobs have actually been lost. But what is exciting about this fourth industrial revolution is that it works on precision. Now we can measure things. And when you can measure it, then you will manage it. So when you look at how disrupted the corporations have actually suffered, is that, you know what, they all agree that, in fact, 95% of the top executives, they do accept that actually, though people are working from home now, because the employee of the future does not necessarily go to the office. You can work from home now. That's what you're supposed to do. But then now, if you are not as skilled in terms of technology and how to use it, it doesn't make you employable. But what it also opens up, it's an opportunity for you to do your side hustles, that you can actually become a freelancer. So these are the things that you can actually do, and then you can deliver your work, but then you can still do other things at the same time. So, and yes, with your 50 megs, go out there, check the information now. It's literally, it's on your device. You can actually find it anywhere. And there are actually free courses that teaches you the digital skills that are currently in need. Because now that's what's going to make you employable, and that is what is going to make you, or give you a competitive advantage when you can actually say, these are the skills that I have. I can use Google spreadsheets. I can use, these are the things that are needed now. So if you are unable to offer that value, then you will continue or stay being unemployable if you are not proving value. So that is my parting shot to say, make yourself employable, give yourself that cutting edge. It's all in your device.
Thank you. Nyeko, young people are sitting here and they've read somewhere that the Gautrain is expanding. There's a massive expansion program that you have from an infrastructure point of view. But of course, our session was really around, technological disruptions. What last thought do you leave them with as they anticipate some of the opportunities that may be not necessarily only in rail, but in transportation in the main or in general?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for that opportunity. I just made a few notes. It's unfortunate that most people seem to be, in this room, seem to be more interested in media, and they had media questions. But anyway, I'll go for it. So I think how I want to start my response is that, look, the future of work, the way I see it from my assessment and the assessments that we've done in other forums, is the fact that it's the Uberization of skills. So what that means is that there will be a time where skills will be Uberized. Just as when you need a vehicle, you just say, I want to go from point A to B, and the highest or the closest, the nearest vehicle at the right price shows up, and that's the one that you choose. So things like for accounting, for instance, a company will say, I need an accountant for just 2 months, or to just do my payroll for 2 days. And the highest bidder, or the lowest bidder, or the best candidate with the right qualifications, with the right experience and the right rating will be the one that is selected. And that person will just work for that 2 days, get paid, and that's it. And then advertise their skills for other companies to leverage as well. So the Uberization of skills is something that is going to become a reality. And in order for Zaev to survive in that space, you have to actually have skills. You need to make sure that you have skills. And in terms of skills, what I want to advise people is learn to build something. Learn to make something. You know, one of the reasons that most ideas in South Africa or that the youth have that don't necessarily go anywhere is because it ends up as an idea. It just sits as an idea because you can't build it. You have an idea for an app, but you don't have the skills to build the app, or you have to go and pay someone. So this thing about coding, you know, these programs that are out there that assist students about coding, and also this coding that is being implemented in high schools and so on, it's very, very important because that enables you to go from an idea to building something that is tangible. That is very important. And then in terms of the township economy, someone's mentioned the township economy, and the thinking there is that these platforms, the e-commerce platform, have actually transcended the barriers or the borders of the country as well as you know, the townships and so on. It doesn't matter where the product comes from. If it's available on these platforms and you are making a product, you are producing a product, as long as you can deliver it to the customer, it doesn't matter whether you're in the township, you're in an industrial area, or you are in a suburb. It doesn't matter. There was a time where I was looking for a bright stand, and I wanted to look at the options that these companies would have. And when I went to I saw them online. Everything looked nice. When I went to their plant, I found that it's an old farm. Just people they're using an old house. It's an old farm. They are building these things. So it doesn't really matter where you are. If you build the right product and you put it on the right platforms, it should be accessible to people. So that is very important.
I hope that's the last one, Nico, because my timekeepers are now tapping on me.
Okay, no, that's fine. Yeah, last one. You need to continuously reinvent yourself. There is nothing that is going to last. The skill that you have today might not be relevant tomorrow. So you have to continuously reinvent yourself as a person and reinvent your skills, even mid-career. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Dr. Mohapi, as the one closing, Khaitsedi literally pointed at you and say, can you help us with opportunities? And I want you to respond directly to that. But as your closing thought, right, in the last 48 hours, we've seen the 5 to 6 hours shutdown of Facebook, which owns Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Oculus disrupting everything, right? So here we are encouraging young people to, see digital as the future. As we see digital as the future, what must they be mindful of? So that going back to Professor Chilidzi Makwala's issue around, it's not about being an engineer. It's about understanding the value of when Magogo was working on the pottery and making something that is lasting.
Okay. No, thanks very much. I'll try to be brief. The first thing, just to get to the challenge that has been put in front of me.
Yes.
Is this is an inspiration for me. You are here because you are hungry. You are here because you have something to offer. And you are here because you are inspired by something. And there are 4 things that we talked about for me that are the ingredients of success. And the first one you have covered by just being here. That hunger. The second one is what we talked about, which is being inspired to look around your communities, find problems, and internalize those problems and find solutions. That I have no doubt that you have. The third thing is access to capital. And I want to address it now. And the fourth one, maybe related to that, is access to markets. You have a product to offer. You have done everything, but where is a market for this thing? The interesting thing about the people who invest is that they have an interest in success of their investments. So typically, seed funders or capital providers will assist the investee companies in getting access to markets. And those things have, or those capabilities have improved over time into platforms for both capital raising and access to markets. I would like to put a challenge back to the organizers that I will put my resources where my mouth is. If next week we start a crowdfunding initiative, Orange Farm Empower Youth, crowdfunding, create an ecosystem, and we draw from the ideas that you have, and we start that process. I will put my money. And we will meet there, my sister. We will meet there. Is that fine? That's it. The other thing about technology, I mean, just remember, technology is man-made, women-made. It can break. It can break. But what doesn't break is the inventiveness of people to walk around technologies, find the problems that happened yesterday. And the biggest problem within Facebook, the group right now, is that they've opened doors for competitors. Right? It's the biggest problem that they experience right now. That's why they say the CEO there lost about $4 billion yesterday when the stock price went down. Be aware of that. You have to absolutely, Nyeko, be as much as we're talking about being inspired and so on and so forth. The foundation for all of that is the education part. Be there, be strong about it, but always be inspired to do more. Thank you.
Banabesu, before I hand over to Ndade Nkosi as he takes over, I think that this has been one of the most powerful panel, don't you think? To remind you again who we had here, we have Ndade Sutumo Mohapi, who's the Chief Go-to-Market Officer at Dimension Data. And to my left, we have Ndade Motseki Mabuya, who's the CEO of Hope FM. We also have Osnandi Madadasana, who's the MD of Everboon Foundation. Thank you so much, Khaitsedi. And we have Ndade Charles Muchacho Mutaung, who's the CEO and founder of KCA Radio. And lastly, we have Nyeko Nkuna, who's the GM of Intelligent Transport System. I wish to really say, Ndade Masiza, I'm quite honored to have been facilitating this panel, and thank you so much. Banabesu, thank you so much for allowing me to be here, and apologies if we didn't take your questions, and we were meant to. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to our panel. That was super amazing. We really appreciate it. And I would like to assure you that all the promises that they've made here, we are going to follow through. You don't have to run after them and drag their jackets. We have an opportunity pavilion on Empower Youth website, as I have said this morning. Just make sure that you register and then you keep checking what we have there. So all the opportunities that keep coming, we're going to keep posting them there. So do yourself a favor, register on Empower Youth, and not only that, keep checking what opportunities do we have there. If you have any questions, send us an email. We'll be able to follow through. Okay? Thank you.
All right, one more time to our panel and our moderator, ladies and gentlemen. One more time. One panelist said, the first thing in Nzile, you came here because you're hungry. And I'm like, I am hungry, actually. I am hungry now. We have learned to use the language during this week, ne? Asisebenziseni chance, mina ngifundi English enye. Phezu kwale ngiyaziyo nami yabo. Ngifundile ukuthi angithi bathe women izolo bebakhuluma ngo empowerment, ne, of ladies. The lady, oh no. Africa Tikkun. Ntate Mark, right? Said when a boy sees a lady, everything changes or something like that. You remember? Yeah, mina ladies nyang encourage. When you go to the movies, buy your own popcorn. Buy your own popcorn and drink. Siyanicela ningaqali ukuba i-maintenance kithi. Ninabo abazali ne? Siyanicela. Yo, umuntu uyanayo ebhayisikopu Nkosi yami. All yena ayenzayo ukubheka. Kitloja combo 7. Combo 7. Monna ki 250 that Skatlodla ka combo 7. Guys, establish the rules before of engagement. The worst thing about time is that it made guys think and that they can provide throughout time. It's impossible. Not these days, and then, look, if you've got the stash, look, hey, you got the bag, man, I got no problem. But if you're a working person, you cannot do it alone. School fees is ningi, siyadura. After every week, you know what I mean? Tracksuit next week. So you need to be one. Ni push. I'm sticking kidney in a cocoa bottle. Uzoba right. Yeah, ufundili English bachele labantwana. It seems like this interaction is capital intensive. It's capital intensive. Angithi ngifundile. No, it's capital intensive. And it seems like the streaming of such funds are from only one direction. I'm not reciprocated by the eventual owner of the said fund. Basically what I'm saying is that the date today, I don't think it's going to function if we are not together in the same thinking method. Ladies, nani bambeni. Okay? Ibambeni kanjalo, guys. I know they are gentlemen. Got nothing against being a gentleman. Ne? But into ye ATM bafethu kuyabona abantu mabaye ku ATM. Umuntu uyazi ne? And you're going mudimuntuse ibeteng. Kalibiso lantateli. Hey, uyazi awunamali. Ubhizi lapha. Hey maburu ayetsang. Hey keep imali sifuna ukuhamba. Mabura yetsang. And then bare contact your next branch. Then you know I've got 19 rand, right? That's easy. But know your limits, Liwen. They've taught us about fear. Ne? We mustn't be afraid, but we must be practical. And people that prosper go orange farm, give them, ne? Ungabi nekwali man. Ungabi no moyo mubi. Mangfaka ma big window, oh kimo orange farm, oh tlo khathala, kimo. How? Help one another, black people. They've just emphasized that. Ne? Let's help one another. Young people, upgrade your thinking. Not everything is hip-hop, but just look into other spaces of thinking. The guests that are here have told you high-end information. Start thinking like that. Ubega ma adverts, angithi nama entrepreneur. And you want to go abanye bafuna ku media, right? But be savvy. Ne? Be savvy. There are adverts that get you to take a loan that you don't need. Ne? And then advertising sebayenze na gore. If you want your child to go to the best education ever, we are there for you. And then the family comes together, they hug, and then you have been accepted at the university. Skoloto X is going to help you. You are getting in debt. You're getting in debt. Now they've made it nicely and family to get the black man in debt. That's what it is, bruh. You can like the advert, they're hugging, oh, he's got a loan, now he can go to school. No. They got you in debt. Careful. Don't compete with each other. Awazi sagala melingakanani, ne? Ungayothenga iBMW kanti umuntu ne? The next thing say hamba kahle girl and guy. Uzofika. Be practical. All right? The questions that you have raised today, thank you so much. You guys are so eloquent and articulate. Well done, guys. Ningazinyatsi. Well done to each and every one of you for being present. Nala ingqondweni ne siyakubonga lokho. Ngicela nishayele nizandla. Lastly, kwakhulunywa nge-artificial intelligence, but singayisabi ne. Imagine if you had robotic parents. It's like, what? Ne? Imagine tina ma actors replaced by robots. The robot doesn't sleep, will memorize the lines, will do the stunt, will just press a button, then it's new wardrobe. Maybe, I don't know. It's gonna come there, right? Right now in relationships, uchilo professor what did the sport or something, ne? Right now, sebakune roboti elusisi. Li program way to your own needs, gents. Yabona uthi hayi ngoba awunayo leya info enginayo. Usahamba nga yini lamateksi kusala, usahamba ngeventure. That's why uba nekwali. Thina siku Uber X. Mangabe we understand into, oh Pranim Sutin. Then you'll get information. Ngabe nekwali. I robot will create you. Hambi eJapan uyekuphi. Li create you. Last thing. In fact, the Facebook people lost 7 billion, actually. But anyway. The last thing. Nikhuluma nge-township economy. Angithi sikhuluma nge-township economy. It's a nice word. What does it mean? How does it track a person who's born in a township, who's spent in the township, who has been empowered by the township, and he empowers those who's the township today? Who is the township? It's nice to say township economy, but who is? Who is the township? The worst that we do, siyoshisa lapha. But angithi inenvumile. Inenvumile angithi. Nithanda imali more than imali eza so in 20 years. So le room akalithatha athengise kulo. Ningazozenza ngcono. Sikhuluma iqiniso. Masokwatile ungasakhona ukugrizina uyalwa. Township economy. Ask the people that come, our political leaders, batsheleni ukuthi qalani ngathi. Ningasabi. Ningasabi. Ngicela ningitshele one business yabantu abamnyama esePakistan ngiyathula ngizozwa kini ngicela hayi ngicela ningitshele ngicela ningitshele ngicela ifamily ya noma ikuphi whether umZulu umXhosa umTsonga umVenda ehlala ePakistan eprospera right now yabantu abamnyama No. I'm 49. There's nothing that propels you better than fear sometimes. Because one day, lobusha enqosha ngabo buzo expire. Angithi manje mabanikhuza guy, my mom doesn't understand. Yo, she's on me. Yeah, kuninyeza. Yeah, nyeza. No one tina. Hamba kuthi dustbin. Oh yeah, mina kahle. Oh yeah. Maru sinkwa sala endlini uwe. Awazi ukuthi sibuya bisithengwa kanjani. Maru udla ama slice iPhone amapaloni. Where do you think that bread comes from? Awusebenza uhlelo unuka amakhwapha la going up and down. Marufuna ukudla lesa sinkwa uyabhodla makumele uthunywe. Was there anything about provision? Tsamguta amaPampers ayi2 will take care of that kid. Come on. Ubusha enqosha ngabo will expire. One day nizongena ku unemployable. Like abanye abaku-agent abakwamanye ama-industry, they're unemployable. Mina senyamdlala umkhulu manje TV. You know what I mean? Ngilabo umkhulu abase TV. But imagine guys, masona 49. Uzoyiranda le circle ye still be the same circle, same house, same friends, same fences, same room, same door, same tap, same bathroom, same bed spread, same wardrobe, same plastic on the wardrobe, same dining room, same TV, same fridge, same door to the toilet, same back way back in house, same mama talking, same, and life will pass you by. By the time you look, you are an 80-old man or woman. All you have is the frustration of the freedom that never happened to you. Take what you get here, bruh. Run with that. Do the best that you can do. Alright? Siyavumelana? Askisi ngiyanithanda. Angeke ngintshele into engazange ngayisafara. Okay? There are problems ekhaya. Hello, fine. So, who hasn't experienced problems ekhaya? Hello. We all have. But we pray, Lord, get me through this. Get me through this. Hey, ngikhohle ukuntshela izolo ngithole irole. Ngithole irole ku the estate. Hello. But do you know it's a series of no thank you Nimrod before? Yeah. There've been a series of no thank you Nimrod. Educated as I am in dramatic arts, there's been a series no thank you Nimrod. But le call again. Ne? So look out for it, I can lively. So you'll never see me like this. I'm sharing who I am with you, ne? Otherwise you'll never see me like this. So, ngicela uphakamise isandla noma isiphi usibambe so. Any weather right? And then smell. If you nearly choked kancane isikhathi sokuphuma. Okay guys, I'm going to give okay, I was on shower. Yo. I've got t-shirts. I've got a few questions and then we're breaking for lunch in 5 minutes. Is that okay? Or must I do it after lunch? T-shirt after lunch. All right, siyavumelana. After lunch, we'll have more questions. But don't forget to post as well. Guys, anything that we can do better, please let us know. Let us know, all right? Okay, I'm going to call lunch again, guys. Lunch will be served again. Thank you so much.